Join us for an immersive experience that redefines leadership through the lens of strategic rest in Greensboro, North Carolina on June 7th, 2025. We'll see you there.
Good morning, and welcome to the Power Nap Live. I am Dr. Erin Wilson, and I'm here with my favorite co-hostess with the mostest. I never know what side of the screen you're going. You're gonna actually be on. I know where I can see you, but I don't know what's gonna be mirrored back out to people. But wherever she is, we always feel her presence and know she is there. I am with Dr. K, and it's Sunday, so y'all know what we're gonna do. I'm gonna ask her, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Been a day of rainy weather, so that's all. It's mixed emotions with that. Rain is good sleeping weather, but also, rain adds to the growth of things, which means
Ooh.
high grass, and I got to cut grass the other day.
Listen, I love that you cut your own grass. It's something
Yeah.
so like I don't it's something so wholesome about the fact that you cut your own grass. Like, I don't know. I have cut grass before, like once or twice. I feel like I helped my dad back in the day just because I thought it was cool. And he had sometimes he would have a riding lawnmower. So I would always be like, oh yeah, I just want to drive. That's really what it was. Um, but I need to ask him one day, like, what did it feel like to just be out there with no one talking to you? Was that
Mhm.
rest? Even though you were in doing physical labor,
Yeah.
was it rest? So
Well,
that's my question I'm asking you. Even when you're doing physical labor, does it sometimes feel like rest?
physical labor is rest for me.
Mm.
Um, and I started cutting my grass because I realized how much money I was giving away to somebody else to cut it. And I was operating on their timeline of when they can come cut my grass. And because I
Mhm.
live in a subdivision, peer pressure is real. When you live in a subdivision and you see people cut their grass, and then yours is like, but I gotta wait for my grass, the grass person to come, and I don't, and they're not able this week, etc. And so I was like, let me pour that money back in. And so the price that I paid for a weed eater and a lawnmower was, I mean, drastically different than what I was paying out for a year
Wow.
for someone else to come cut my grass. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, so I feel like there's a word in there somewhere, right? That like sometimes we think that we need to rely on somebody else to do something that we need, but with a little bit of work on our part,
Yeah.
that we're able to have the tools we need
Hmm.
to gain something that we wouldn't have when someone else is doing it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like something
I,
jumped into your spirit.
like I initially did it because I needed the time, right?
Hmm.
So I needed time to do other things, and cutting my grass was just something easy that I can give to someone else to do so I can get that time back for me.
Right, right.
And then when I was able to look at my schedule and balance it out a lot better than what I've had, it was like, okay, I now know how to insert time, and I can also save money by, buying my own stuff and cutting it myself. And it has been proven to be great. So I actually um my father actually went with me when I was getting everything, and came and helped me cut it for the first time. And so he gave me the ins and outs and etc. And so it has since then, and I have a hill in the back of my yard, and it reminds me every day that I'm not as young as I used to be. And woo, but watching my father, who's well much older, get up on that hill and cut the grass and weed eat, it did something to my mind. Of one, it reminded me of watching him do yard work when I was growing up,
Hmm.
and how, as a young person, you thought it's just something you have to do. But watching him in my yard made me think that maybe that was though it was labor, it was a safe space of peace for him. Because
Mm.
watching him do it, he did it with no, like, complaining, and what I'm doing, I'm like, "Ugh," and I gotta take a break and etcetera, and he just did it. And so it allowed me to see my father in a different way in my adult years than I've ever seen, and it reignited my love for being outside and why I
Mm.
enjoyed nature. And yeah, like he was up here a couple of weeks ago, because I was like, listen, the weeds are up, and yeah.
You said the
uh,
weeds are up and the
yeah.
spirit is down.
And I gotta put some mulch down. So he went and got me some mulch, and we put it down together. He weed eated my heel, and it's just small reminders, right? I
Right.
often reflect, as you get older, sometimes you go apart from people.
Yeah.
Sometimes, life is just different when you're older because you see things a
Yeah.
lot differently.
Yeah.
And I found that yard work has become, a very peaceful space,
Yeah.
to just be in community with my father in a different way than I've been before.
Oh, I love that. I know it's not like I know last week we talked a little bit about like mothers, and it seems like a little preemptive to talk about fathers since Father's Day is not here yet. But I just would be remiss not to like, I don't know, to vibe with you on that same, like in that same space. My father is so instrumental in my life. And the more people I get to know, the more like navigate through life. I didn't realize, let me see how I want to say this. The more wisdom I have
Mhm,
gotten, the older I have gotten, the more I realize how much of a blessing like having my earthly father has been.
mhm.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Oh, wait, I don't know if I can do that without y'all trying to play me on this show this morning.
Oh,
Um
yeah.
I just didn't know. It's kind of like when I went off to college, one of the first things that I found, like I found out so many things about people's family dynamics when I went
Mhm,
off to college. Things that for me were very like part of our routine was something
mhm.
that people didn't ever experience, right?
Yeah.
And so the older I
Mhm,
have gotten, the more I have lived and gotten to know more people, the
mhm.
more my relationship with my father is something that I realize other people have not had the privilege to have. And that makes me sad
Yeah.
because of
Aw.
how much joy I know. We're not supposed
Tears.
to be doing this. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No,
This I'm
it's a
so so
real
I'm
thing.
looking into the screen. I'm so sorry. We might just replay this one for Father's Day. But
It's a
I
real
love
thing.
it's such a real thing to be loved by your daddy. It's a
And
confidence that it provides you, and it's a safeness. It's a ooh, and I wish it for everybody.
yeah. I didn't grow up in a household where I heard the words "I love you" very often.
Mm,
If any, right? I didn't grow up in a household where we shared emotions,
mm,
which, has translated into my adulthood of what that looks like.
yeah.
But there was never a moment where I felt like, my father wasn't able to provide and didn't provide,
Mm,
right? Even like I remember, in high school, you get those class rings, and I really wanted one. And the one that I wanted was like 200 and some dollars. And I remember, laying it out because my father worked second shift. And so I would lay it out and he would get it when he get it home. And you write notes and stuff.
yeah.
And I remember having a conversation and he was like, yeah, I'm not paying for that. All, going back and forth. And then I was just like, and I got a real attitude about it. And the next thing I know, maybe a couple of days later, he was like, pick it out. And he bought me my class ring. And what people may not, I don't wear it now because it's small and, I'm bigger. But that was the only ring I ever wore in my life because of that.
Yeah.
Because that ring symbolized to me that, one, me being resilient for what I wanted, but
Sure.
also someone seeing it from a different perspective and doing what they had to do to make something happen for me.
Absolutely.
And so that's the only ring that I've ever worn up until maybe a couple of years ago. Because I wore it so much that when I finally took it off, it was imprinted, and like a part of my finger was like smaller than the other because I never took it off really.
Wow.
And so, you know, I'm always thankful for the stories that people talk about with their life experiences because we assume that people have certain experiences in their life with their parents,
Yep.
and then we assume that because we had something that somebody else had something similar, or vice versa,
Hmm.
etc. And so I'm very appreciative of different stories of how people grew up, and
Yeah.
not going in assuming that they had, anything similar to mine or different than mine, because you, as you said, some people don't have the opportunity or didn't have the opportunity to grow up in a two-parent home, let alone a single parent home or with any of their parents, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And how it's just a very sacred space.
Hmm.
It also, for me, I believe, as someone who, has a background in counseling and all of that, you know, parents and guardians signal a space, a sense of belonging for folks early on, and
Yes.
how that dynamic shapes really impacts what life looks like for them as they get older, and what it means to be loved. What does love look like? What it means to affirm someone in a space,
Mhm.
and I think we tend to take that for granted sometimes, especially when we feel like we have it all, and
Yes.
realize, I had all of that material stuff, but I don't think I ever, felt the emotional part. Right.
Yeah.
And it's not until we get older that we see that, because of course when you're younger, you're not thinking like that. So I'm just thankful for the stories that people are able to share, and at least that have shared with me and I've shared with them in terms of upbringing, and how that really translates into your adulthood, and really how it translates into what rest looks like and what rest means.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about that. I mean, we've talked about it in the past. We talked about it in so many different spaces, but absolutely. I just, of course, the more I journey in my life, the more I realize how influential like my parents have been on just so many aspects, right? Often people will ask me like, "How are you so confident? Like, how are you never like you just are, right?" And I just am, but it's because our parents. It is because our parents. I came from a household where they were just like, "You're it." Now
Mm,
that can provide some issues for you in some spaces, but for sure, like having parents who affirmed you, who said you were smart, who said you were kind and generous, all of those things that I seek to be are really shaped by kind of what they spoke into me, if that makes sense. And then
yeah.
there's even a higher level than that, especially when I think of my father and our relationship being like the oldest daughter of a
Mhm.
guy of a man who has no sons.
Mhm. Yeah, that's me.
Exactly. And I know we connect on that. So you also like want to you want to get to know them more because there's things that like societally you feel like, ooh, they would have shared this with this, you know what I'm saying? Like societal norms make you do that, but it makes you key in to learning so many more things. Oh my,
Yeah.
I'm a mess. I don't know what is going on today. I'm a G. I'm a gangster, and you have had. Oh,
Okay.
when you talk about your dad, exactly. Like there's something they kind of I feel like people talk about their moms all the time. I love my mama. Everybody know Emily is a real one, if that makes sense. But I don't there's not that many spaces where I see people talk about their fathers, if that makes sense. So anyway, um so for me it was so important to learn so many things that he wanted to pass down that
Yeah.
even sometimes people assigned more masculine characteristics to, if that makes sense, because I always just was like, like I gotta be everything he needs, right? And it's so funny because they never ask you to do anything. My
Yeah.
dad's pride in me is uh whenever he says, "Oh, I am proud," that's enough. And so I think that is when people ask about my confidence, it's because it's never for anybody else. It
Mm,
literally, if I make my parents proud,
mhm.
I don't really care about what happens with the rest. With the rest, like I've
Like,
done what I
good
came to
job.
do. If things go well for you, while I were making my parents proud, making God proud, being the best wife that I can be, best sister I can be, then good. I'm glad something went well for you. But
Yeah.
ultimately, like, that's what I'm always focused on, is being the best for those people.
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely a lot different. Um, for me, I think the biggest thing that I grew up and learned was for me, it was trusting God, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that more so came from my paternal grandmother, my father's mother. But it was kind of rooted within my growing up in so many aspects. And one of the things that I now can walk away with, growing up taught me that no matter the flaws,
Mhm. Mhm.
no matter the reason why people did what they did,
Mm.
they're still people. And if God can still care for them, who am I to not? Right?
Whew.
And that's a big lesson for me in many different ways. And if you know my life story, it's really big. And
Right.
so I've had to learn to operate in that from a lens, or teaching myself that beyond what I saw growing up, right?
Mm.
And my paternal grandmother was a big teacher for me in that. And it reminded me, as I look at now, that what I wanted, because everyone knows I do a lot of self-reflection. And so what I now know that I wanted then was to be seen,
Mm.
right? And seen as more than just someone who did well in school.
Mm.
And I never felt that. And because of that, I never truly expressed my needs because I didn't feel that my needs were warranted.
Mm.
And so for me, it was just go to school, do great, and then get out. That's how I
Yeah.
operated.
Yeah.
And I didn't allow emotions to come in. I didn't allow real relationships to form around me because in my mind, I wasn't going to be seen anyway for more than just, oh, she's good in school,
Mm.
etc. And now I'm in that space as I get older of my needs are warranted. And if
Mhm.
I feel something and need something, then I'm going to express it regardless of how it makes the other person feel, because that has nothing really to do with me. And so that's one of the biggest things that I'm working through now is just being open about communication and what I need. So when people are like, "Oh, you real about your boundaries?" Yes. You don't know how long it took me to get very real about my boundaries. And when I say I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. Rather than doing it out of the sense of obligation for someone else. So my upbringing taught me that everyone's voice is warranted,
Mhm.
even if their voice goes against how we feel or what we want them to do.
Mm. Oh, there was so much there as you were saying that I kind of like. My first thing was asking people, right?
Mhm.
How many times have you not felt like your needs were warranted,
Yeah,
right? And it stopped you from asking the people around you for what you needed in order to experience strategic rest. I'm gonna just
yeah,
set that there with you. Okay, I'm not
yeah,
gonna walk it through with you. I'm not gonna do none of that because I have to send you an invoice. But what I am going to say is, how many times have you been in a relationship with people that you have yet to show the vulnerability with? Maybe they're not safe enough for you to feel like
yeah,
you can do that, and that's another thing. That's why I'm just setting it there. Okay,
yeah,
I'm setting it there for you, because you need to be asking yourself these questions. When I am exhausted or tired, um not only do I realize it and advocate for what I need, but oftentimes my husband will go like, "Listen, you've been burning the candle at both ends. I need to stop you before things, spiral
Right.
out of control." So if you don't have people in your corner that are doing that, then there may be some questions you need to ask yourself. But then not just that, have you decided in your mind that you deserve to be able to ask people for what you need in order to experience strategic rest? And are
Yeah.
you ready that it may not that they may see it differently from you, and that's
Yeah.
okay? You still got to have what you need with your boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, listen, I say yes to nothing I don't want to do in the age and stage of my life. And I feel bad for people because I imagine it will only get worse. A
Mhm.
40s era, like if this iteration of Aaron be like, nah, no, okay, absolutely not, absolutely not, then I can't imagine a 50s version. Like, she
Mhm.
wild. Like, I want to see. I can't wait to see her. She gonna be wearing all white. I told you she gonna be fly. Okay, but I can't imagine. And I want that for other people to feel confident enough to be able to say no if there's something that they don't want to do. And I realize that in life, sometimes it may not feel like that's always the case, but it is. Boundaries are just so important when it comes to rest. And when you
Yeah.
don't understand how to build those, how to protect those, how to share those, then you miss out on the things that it keeps out.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that you stated was um a safe place.
Mhm.
And oftentimes we believe or we expect that family is safe space, and that is not always the case. I think for me, my biggest safe places have not been with family, right? It's
Mm,
been with people who were not, blood family, right? And people who had no biases, etc. And took the time to get to know me
mm,
and understand me. Those have been some of the biggest safe places for me, right? And I don't fault, family. You do what you are able to do with the tools that you have available to you at that time, right? And I
absolutely.
think part of wanting to be seen, and wanting, your voice to be heard, and your needs to be warranted has a lot to do with relationship building, right?
Mm,
And not I'm building a relationship with you because of my role in your life, but I'm building a relationship because I really want to, right? And so I think oftentimes, when I look at the dynamics of people and their parents, me and my parents, your siblings, etc., a lot of times those relationships are built because of the role that someone has.
sure.
And as you get older, you get new experiences, you shift, and that relationship changes and is often met with, oh, well, this is not how you used to be, and etc. And it's like, well, I'm a grown woman now and I understand things a little different. So is it that you were only focused on the relationship because of the role or the title you had in my life? Or are you really focusing on the relationship because of who I am as a person, regardless of where I am today and where I was yesterday?
Ooh,
And that
I love
signals
that.
safety.
Yeah,
And it's hard
absolutely.
to rest when you're unsafe.
Can we put that on a shirt? It's hard to rest when you are unsafe. Okay, that's it. Like, that's the whole show. It's hard to rest when you are unsafe. Okay, so you need to be working backwards from unsafe to how to get to be safe will allow you to be able to figure out the stuff that you need in order to be able to rest, because that's to me what we experience a whole lot of stuff from people who have nowhere that they feel safe.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being in your home and you don't feel safe?
Yeah.
Going to your
Oh,
job
I
and you
know
don't
it.
feel safe.
I,
Honestly,
I know it. Right? And for and when you're unsafe and you're unable to rest, you keep doing things to keep your mind occupied.
Mm-hmm.
And there was the only time that I felt like I didn't have to do and do was always when I was in the company of my paternal grandmother. It
Yeah.
felt like time just stopped,
Right.
right? And it was the most safe space for me, whether we were at our home or at church. It just felt safe.
Yeah.
And I found as I look back now, I kept myself doing stuff so that I wouldn't think about this unsafeness, right? Which wasn't the language I would have used back then. It
Mm-hmm.
probably would have been a different language. But as I think about it, it's really important to really build relationships and get to know people, to ask
True.
questions, to engage, because that signals safety, right? In
Yeah.
many spaces. Um, if I'm vulnerable enough to have a conversation, you're teaching me something, whatever the conversation is, it's an openness that's there. And it doesn't have to be anything, very big that you're talking about. But then you think about walking into a space and people just say hey and keep moving, and it's like no one sees me, no one wants to have a real conversation. You begin to feel unsafe,
Yeah.
you begin to
Absolutely.
feel like an outcast for whatever reason, and no one communicates that to you.
Oh, belonging is also something that I feel like is in the conversation when it comes to safety. So we've talked about the importance of it, right? We've talked about like creating spaces. We talked about what people do for it, but I want to invite you to share a time, right? And y'all always have to say invite because it's a Dr. K language. It's a word that she always uses, and it makes me so happy. And I like put it into my like vocabulary now. Every time I say it with people, I think of her. But so I want to invite you. I want to invite you to share a time, if you feel comfortable, about something that was revealed to you because you rested.
Oh.
And I know. So I'm gonna let you have time to think. But I was thinking about that this morning, right? And then it's so wild because I didn't even introduce that concept, and that's where we ended up. But it was what I was thinking about this morning, and I was gonna ask you a question around that. Then we got on dads, and we all know how that derailed us, right?
Yeah.
But one of the very first times in my life where I rested and something was revealed to me, right? Where it became clear I needed to do something else was all the way back in college. I
Mm.
didn't know at the time. Now, this version of Aaron, of course, understands what I was experiencing. I was resting, therefore, I was open to being able to hear what may have clearly been said to me a lot of different times, but I didn't hear it because because I wasn't stopping. I wasn't resting. I didn't
Yeah.
feel safe, right? So
Yeah.
right before I graduated college, I was, doing all the things. Anyone who went to college with me knows all the things in sorority, like, student body president, all of the things. Okay. So, there was a period of time, like kind of in April, right about where we just passed, where you pass on you pass off all the stuff, you give the gavel to the next president, there's nothing else to do. You're a senior, you're about to graduate, all your grades are about to be in. There's nothing else to do, right? And in that moment, it was not something I seeked, but it was something that happened.
Mhm.
Quiet happened. I didn't have to go to any meetings. I didn't have to do anything. It was the end of April. Nobody was really looking for me, if that makes sense. And it gave me time to sit in my apartment, which I realized number one, I hadn't even really put any furniture in because I was never there. I was just like, there's no food here because I was always on campus. Like, what is happening, right? But in
Yeah.
it, I got to sit. And one day I sat and it made me ask myself,
Mm.
first of all, it allowed me to think long enough to ask myself a critical question that changed my entire life. That question was, am I do I want to go to law school, or have my parents just told me my
Mm.
entire life I was going to law school? And it
Ah.
came out of nowhere. Like, who am I to have to think about what I want? That's crazy. To that version of Aaron, it was crazy. It was wild, right? And so I really sat and thought, wait a minute, do I want to do that? right? Or do I just, is this what I'm thought I was supposed to do? And that changed the course of my life. I own an entire business. I own more than one business because of that one question, because of what rest, because of rest.
Yeah.
And that's wild to me. So really quickly, I want you to share yours. And then I can't believe it's been 30
Yeah.
minutes.
Oh wow. I think if I what I want to share will
Yeah.
put something that I have not put publicly yet.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
That's coming.
Uh-oh.
Not the big.
Oh, okay, okay. I was
Well,
like,
it's
yes,
two things, but I'm only going to share one of it.
you
So
getting
a
news
couple
here,
of
folks.
yeah, a couple of months ago, I sat in silence, sat in devotion with God because everything is going well. I mean, I got into a space of what does all of this mean, right? Settle me, God, and in that quietness and hearing God, one of the things that came up was my role in my sorority and
Mm,
why all of a sudden I was becoming a big deal in
mm,
many spaces in leadership development
mhm,
in the last 3 years. And I sat and I was like, God, what is this? Because I remember, when you first joined, it was, oh yeah, I'm gonna be the international president. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, do that. And then, life happens and things just don't add up, and you're like, I don't want no parts of this, right? And I was like, but God, why do I what is this? Why do I keep showing up in this space? Why do people keep pulling me? And it became very clear that there was a strong connection between so in my sorority we have an auxiliary group, and I've talked about this auxiliary group before. The Zeta and Mika, who are women that are friends of Zeta, but they don't have a
mm.
4-year degree.
Yeah.
And I started to be around them a lot in the last couple of years, and it was just refreshing. I felt seen. I didn't have to be Dr. K. I could just be. And that was very different for me. And in this moment of devotion, I'm just like, what does this mean? What is all of this? And a small voice that came over me was, because they're a reflection of your paternal grandmother.
Wow.
And it shifted me.
Wow. Wow. That 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 could that you felt that the safety was because, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And one thing I want to point out is, y'all, we're not telling you to rest just because it's fun. We're telling you that
It's
this is
hard.
like it's hard. Sometimes hard stuff. Sometimes it be rest be snatching you up by your edges sometimes, because
Mhm,
it's the time where you're able to get things together. And that
mhm.
connection that you made, had you never stopped to really ask yourself, right? And to ask, if for you, right? In this case for Dr. K, to ask him, right? Settle me so that I can
Yeah,
hear what you're saying, so I can be even deeper into that connection that I'm experiencing. Because now that you know why, you're even deeper rooted into the
yeah,
reason why you want to do that and support those folks.
yeah. Because ever since my grandmother passed, what most people, no one ever knew, is that I've always been trying to find a way to honor her and who she
Yes.
was in my life and who she was in others' lives. And she was a woman who prayed, who cared.
Mm,
She didn't care what you brought to her. She was just loving. And I thought, okay, maybe I create a foundation, maybe I create a scholarship, all these things. And my grandmother didn't go to college. And that's when it began to click with me. These
mm,
women did not receive or had not received a 4-year degree. So that was the first thing. Oh, similar to my grandmother, but still served along people who had all types of degrees and never once felt belittled, etc., or like they didn't deserve to be serving. So that was
mm,
the other point. And more recently when I do workshops with them or just in their space,
Yeah.
the way they love on me, and like these women would go to bat for me. And half of them, that was the first time I met them and would go to bat for me. And that love reminded me of my grandmother. And so
Mm.
for me, what settled me, which is, I guess I'm saying it for the first time here, um, is that my legacy in Zeta doesn't have to be solely because I'm a Zeta, but my legacy will be because of the work that I do with the Zeta Amika.
Wow. See, y'all thought we were playing with y'all. Like we really having conversation. Like first of all, I done like cried 7 times
And I
today.
ain't got no tissue near me.
Dr. K ain't got no ain't got look, I'm trying to pass her one through the script because we told y'all that this is us having a conversation each day and inviting you in. And we hope that each Sunday that nuggets of who we are, that this is also a part of our legacy in helping you develop who you want to be when it comes to a practitioner of strategic rest and
Yeah.
ultimately more self-aware.
Yeah.
Y'all, it's
So
30 minutes, okay?
I'll throw this in to wrap up what I just said.
Please.
Because of that, um, I did something to honor the Zeta Amikai and how they have supported my boldness and how I operate.
Sure.
And let's just say, you tell God one thing, He'll say another. And I kept saying, I'm not writing no more books. But here we are.
Okay. Then. Here, well, you know me. I'ma always be on the top of whatever it is with my fan going, come on, Dr. K. So I cannot wait to hear more about that and like how rest and safety like were key components for you being able to build something that's going to change the lives of other people. And that's why we're telling y'all this, folks. Like we're about to go. We about to get on up out of here,
Yeah.
but you not resting is standing in between you and what you're called to do.
Yes.
And if you're okay with that, then that's fine. We'll leave you alone. We ain't gonna bother you. I ain't gonna tap you on the shoulder no more. But if you're not okay with that, with the people that you are not showing up for because you're rested and heard what you're supposed to be hearing to be where you're supposed to be, then I want to invite you to really focus on how you can practice strategic rest. All right, folks. Oh, hey, listen, you're the first people to hear it too. We decided that we want to extend the deadline for people to get their tickets. Okay, we still have some tickets left for folks who need to be in a space with folks to talk about how to feel safe around strategic rest, how to make your plan for strategic rest, how to have some folks in there clapping for you and rooting for you as you experience strategic rest and what it's going to look like to do it outside of a space, but with a safe community that's going to be there to root you on. So we want you to be there and to eat all this food that we don't order for folks. Come
That part.
be merry, enjoy the space with us. You'll see in just a second how to get your tickets, but it's thestrategicrest.com, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody in June. All right, folks, with that, make sure that you experience strategic rest this week and make good decisions. We'll see you next Sunday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time and 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I forgot where I was. Okay, I'll talk to see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye. Join us for an immersive experience that redefines leadership through the lens of strategic rest in Greensboro, North Carolina on June 7th, 2025. We'll see you there.